Honest Weekly. I'm your host, Levi Lewis. This is my co-host, Lachlan.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, today we're looking at GHD Australia. GHD is an international network of professional and technical consultants who serve clients in a global marketplace with regards to water, energy, resources and environments. They're a very large company who have created themselves from being a one-store company in Melbourne to now having 135 countries that they service to. They're a worldwide company, so we're going to look at today what they do right, what they do wrong, and we're going to get straight into it by looking at their competitive advantage.
And not only just competitive advantage, but also their sustainable sources of competitive advantages. Levi, are there any important models, considerations, or maybe theories that will help our evaluation of this competitive process?
Yes, Lachlan, when looking at sustainable competitive advantage, you have to go for Coleman Montgomery's resource-based view.
Of course, the resource-based view.
Indeed, so this looks at the 4 different aspects with regards to sustainable competitive advantage, where if you fulfill being valuable, rare, inimitable, and organisationally ready, you may have a potential source of sustainable competitive advantage.
But firstly, I'd say it's quite important that we identify these valuable resources and organisational capabilities which GHD possess, which actually create a competitive advantage, and then we can tell if it is sustainable.
Spot on, Lachlan. So looking back through the last 4 or 5 years, I would narrow it down to 3 main areas which you could argue GHD have a sustainable competitive advantage, thus being their global integration, their skills and their people, and their specific innovation programs which they've been running. So let's start from the first one, global integration.
Firstly, global integration, it's without a doubt that having an integrative network that operates globally is highly valuable. Not only through the diversification of revenue sources, which limits dependence on any one industry, but also the social networks and information networks that are created through our countries.
You can definitely share information. When you have 135 offices, if you have an issue with one, you could definitely ask anywhere else around the world. It's very valuable.
Exactly. And I'd say that it's quite rare having a company that operates in 135 countries. And it also, the resources and capabilities that would be needed to imitate this process, I'd say that it ticks all boxes.
So you would argue that that is a source of sustainable competitive
advantage? Yes, I would.
I would disagree with you. Let me explain why. I would say that yes, it's valuable and yes, they're ready. However, the other 2 areas, I'm not sure they tick. With regards to being rare, if you look at McDonald's, for example, one of their main competitors, these guys have 150 countries, and it's being done. So it's not that rare. Yes, not many are doing it, but there are still enough. And inimitable, I think, yes, if you're a small firm, you can't grow to be 135 countries. However, if you're already mid-size or large, of course you can continue expanding. So I would have to say, is it an advantage? Are they doing well? Yes. Is it a sustainable competitive advantage? No.
Okay, well, moving on to the skills and people. Firstly, it is easy to say by having skilled and well-educated employees that this can create lots of value, especially their ability to implement innovative processes in the business. Is it rare? Yes, to an extent, I would say it is rare due to the shortage of employees in the engineering and consulting industry.
I think specifically when they were talking about that case study, they said that they went out and got specific people because there was that shortage, which would indicate that they may have that sustainable competitive advantage. What about their inimitability and their organisational readiness?
Yeah, I'd say it is not easily imitatable due to the amount of companies that haven't been able to implement such a program.
Okay, so again, you think that they have a sustainable competitive advantage through their employees?
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to have to disagree, because let me argue and say, if you think that their employees that they have now are rare because there's no one else, what happens every year when Monash University, a prestigious institution, have 400, 500 graduates who go out into that workforce?
Are you saying that a newly graduated employee will have the same capabilities as an already experienced one? I would disagree.
I would, maybe you're right, but I could say that in that 5 years they'll get there. So is it inimitable? Maybe not.
Yeah,
it is
not sustainable. So
it's imitatable. So I'm going to argue that no, they do not have a sustainable competitive advantage in that area. Finally, and quickly, let's move on to the innovation program.
Awesome. So this innovation program was outlined in the case study, and it is obvious that going out and finding the most productive employees is highly important. Therefore, it can create value.
I agree, but by going with an innovation program, you could argue that it's valuable, rare, and imitable because Yes, it creates value because they're able to network better. Yes, it's rare because no other company has it. And because of that, you could also argue that it's inimitable. But on the other hand, you could, in the same...
It's only a matter of time before a competitor...
Someone will grab it. So the same idea happens where, yes, it was an advantage for them at the time, maybe back in 2012, but I would heavily doubt if they're using the exact same program now and whether their competitors have that exact same or a similar idea or program working with it.
Thank you, Levi. This has been really insightful.
So we're going to now work on what are the principal economic and industry characteristics for which GHD operate, and for that we're going to bring in our consultant, Calvin. Over to you, Calvin.
So thanks, Levi and Lockie. My name's Calvin, and I'll be talking about the principal economic and industry characteristics in which GHD operate. So GHD are an engineering, architecture and environmental consulting company which are operating in 5 main sectors. So there's water, energy and resources, environment, property and buildings, and transportation. So in 2016, GHD's gross revenue grew slightly to $1.22 billion for the year, with the strength of contribution differing between regions. The ability of GHD to operate on a large scale overseas was a significant factor for them to stabilize and grow their revenue. So just to put it into some perspective, the North American region was affected last year by the low commodity and energy prices. However, the overall company was covered due to the financial stability of the other regions. We can understand the industry environment of GHD through the implementation of Porter's 5 Forces model. The model attempts to understand the long-run profitability of any industry through the understanding of the 5 forces, which are potential entrants, suppliers, buyers, substitutes, and industry competitors. So in regards to potential entrants, GHD is a global company that operates across the globe, and due to the size of the operation conducted, there are many large benefits which they have, such as having a large support of social network of consultants. Therefore, we can conclude that there is a large capital requirement for any firm wishing to enter the global engineering consulting industry. However, the main threat that opposes GHD is the likelihood of two or more of their competitors merging together, which will form a much more competitive market. GHD may not have a typical supply of many manufacturing firms due to the nature of the service that they are providing. The consultants themselves can be considered the suppliers, as they are supplying the input, which is their knowledge and expertise, which is then used to create the output. So GHD have also outlined that there is a significant shortage in experienced engineers and consultants, which is not only a threat to GHD, but the industry as a whole. So in terms of buyers, so the buyers and their power over the consumption process in the industry can be a massive disadvantage to the industry and individual firms. However, the buyers in the industry that GHD are operating in are seeking expert information possessed by the consulting firms themselves. So through the consumption of services provided by the firms in the industry, it implies that the buyers are incapable of implementing changes on their own. Therefore, it would suggest that the buyers have very limited power in the market, which is a positive observation according to the Porter's model. So lastly, the threat of substitutes entering the market. Engineering consultancy firms provide information to buyers which educates them and assists them in making value-oriented decisions regarding the goods or their business processes. Although that there are many actions which a firm can do to increase their value, the knowledge a consultant provides is highly valuable and not really easily imitated or replicated. It would then appear that the industry does not suffer great pressures from substitute products. So just to sum up, due to the exponential capital and resource investment of any new firm looking to enter the market, it provides the current existing firms within the industry a sort of protection. The power being centralized away from the buyers in the market will further reinforce this protection. This is then also contributed to the difficulty in replicating the service provided by the firms, which leads to a highly profitable industry. According to Porter's model, the only negative pressure in the industry is the labour market for engineers and consultants, which provides restricted growth within the industry. GHD's current strategy in their innovative programs, which targets training and recruiting of highly skilled applicants aims to negate the negative effects of the labour market. So this aligns with Porter's suggestion that the more awareness a firm has in their existing market, the more its strategy can be directed towards increasing its share in the market. That's all from me. I'll pass it back to Lockie in the studio.
Thank you, Calvin, and welcome back to the studio. I'm here now with Mahyar Tab, who is an expert on the SWOT analysis.
Thank you, Lachlan, for the introduction. I would like to let our viewers know today, before getting deep into SWOT analysis, what the SWOT actually stands for. It means the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It is a structured planning method that evaluates the 4 elements of an organization. It also involves specifying the objective of the business or the venture or the project, while it actually identifies internal and external factors that are favorable or not favorable to achieve that objective.
And actually, interestingly enough, top-level managers are 90 to 95% aware of this SWOT analysis, and up to 50% are actually active users. So moving on to the strengths.
Due to GHD, they have a very high brand awareness.
I know they've actually experienced 600% growth since the 1990s.
And to add on to that, they have a very high industry-leading professionals with extensive experience.
I understand you're saying this is a strength. What about competitors? Do they have industry-leading experts?
I mean, they do, but due to their strong human resources, as mentioned earlier, I mean, this would lead to a high retention ratio, compared to their competitors.
But also the mentoring programs where knowledge and skill is being able to transfer between new employees and current employees, where you can choose to be a mentor or a mentee, which allow these industry-leading experts to exercise their knowledge and in fact teach it to new employees.
And due to the existing distribution and sales networks that I mentioned.
Yeah, this really emphasizes communication paths in order to really implement innovative processes and new discoveries. There is also a very, very skilled workforce across 5 continents.
Also, there is a shortage of good employees.
Okay, so would you still consider that a strength, or perhaps a threat due to them being unable to...
It's a threat for the whole industry, whoever is in the market, but I would say GHD has maintained well of getting this workforce from across the 5 continents that you have mentioned. So I would put this into the strengths because they have been effectively picking out their employees from across continents.
Alright, thank you. Moving on to weaknesses now. As we know, GHD have been adopting a very, very aggressive expansion policy where they expand through mergers. Mergers limit the span of control of businesses due to, depending on the agreement, they limit their ability to control the firm by potentially up to 50%. This will decrease their ability to implement their own process and limit their span of control.
Also, the rate of their expansions emphasizes this process.
Yeah, so due to the reason that they're expanding quite quickly, this may also make problems arise with lack of process and span of control. Alright, moving on to opportunities. Due to these pre-established social and global information networks, the identification of environmental pressures can easily be turned into opportunities rather than threats, as the information networks will be able to give hints and insider tips to other struggling sites.
But it is also very important to highlight the enormous demand for engineering consultants due to the evident growth that has been occurring since the 1990s.
We speak about evident growth, but some firms have actually experienced a 33% decrease in revenue. Would you consider it therefore an opportunity or perhaps a threat?
I mean, due to GHD's growth in sustainable revenue in the recent years specifically, that demonstrates that they are unaffected by this negative growth in the industry.
Okay, so you're saying that because they've been able to experience positive growth, they have been able to avoid the decreased growth in the industry that some firms have really suffered in, up to 33% decrease in revenue.
However, there is an increase in labor costs, not to forget to mention. Because due to people are enormous demand, they will leave if they do not feel that sense from the organization that they're developing to their full potential.
So it's really important for GHD to keep implementing these human resource practices in order to continually keep up their staff retention and continually hire the most important.
Or else we will have a continuous shortage of technical specialties.
Thank you, Mahyar, for your incredible insight.
No worries.
Welcome back to Business Analyst Weekly. I'm your host, Levi Lewis. So today we've had a look at GHD, a consulting firm which now has a global presence. We've analysed their strengths, their weaknesses, their competitive advantage and many other aspects, but I'm now going to run you through their international strategy. And this is really important because for this company specifically, they've had a really aggressive global outreach over the past 20, 30 years. And we need to understand what strategy they use and how they went about it. So let's first talk a little bit about their history. They were founded in 1928 out of Melbourne and originally only delved into water and waste. But by the time 1970 and 1980 came around, they started looking more internationally until finally in 1990 they made their first move and had an office in Malaysia. They have grown from that 1980 spot of having about 700 employees to now in 2016, 2017 having over 8,500 employees over 135 countries as mentioned before. One of their main strengths is their global domination, not domination, but their global outreach. And the question is, how do they do this? What strategy do they use? Do they only think global? Do they only think local? So after analysing their business, I believe they use a transnational strategy. This means a think global, act local approach that incorporates both aspects of multi-domestic and global strategies. It requires both centralization, having a global coordination and control, while also having decentralization, which means local flexibility. This means that parts of GHD are controlled overall by the CEO, by the head of the company. However, within each company, he can't watch over 135 countries, he can't watch over 200 offices. So he delegates, and these officers are responsible for themselves for achieving the company's goals while also doing it in their own local way. The global competitive landscape fosters intense competitions and pressures to reduce costs, and at the same time, information sharing has intensified the desire for specialized, customized, differentiated products. So through expanding to so many markets, as mentioned earlier in this program, GHD has the ability to use these information sharing practices in order to benefit the company on the whole. But let's examine lastly how it got to be this global presence. Did it franchise? Did it license? No. The way GHD went about it was through mergers and acquisitions. So let's think about for a little second what mergers and acquisitions mean and what are its benefits and limitations. So a merger or acquisition is when a company goes and merges, takes another company, splits it 50-50 and says, you're working under our name. This means that the costs are going to be high. It might give you very quick access to a London or a New York or overseas markets. However, the cost is always going to be high because it's not you by yourself doing it, it's you having to negotiate with another company to get them under your brand name. So they're able to do it, and they've obviously done it almost yearly for the past 30 years, and they've created themselves into such an empire, but they've done it in a high-cost manner, which is going to create a bit of friction there as well. So overall, just to reiterate, they've chosen a transnational strategy, which includes global as well as local aspects, and they've done this mostly through mergers and acquisitions. Thank you for being with us through this Business Analyst Weekly. We hope you enjoyed our analysis of GHD Australia.